It is Monday, February 9th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. Even in an Olympic break, we don't take a break. We're going to be here twice a week, the whole way through, and we have a whole bunch of different topics to tackle, and some of them were suggested by our great listeners, such as is the case today. I'm not going to spoil the topic just yet, but it's a good one, trust me. We also have, of course, some great mailbag questions in the queue and a whole lot more in between. It's going to be a fun show, and it all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
That's right, producer Shayne here, joined as always by my counterpart, Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we feeling today?
Doing fantastic, Shayne.
Yeah,
Day's getting longer. I mean, it's still cold, but it's good.
Correct. We are on the right path here. We are on the tail end of winter. For those who don't like winter, you know what? Hold on a little longer. You'll be all right.
Pitchers and catchers report on Wednesday, by the way.
There you go. That's a great indicator. That is a great indicator that summer is on the way, which also means playoffs. And a little tease for our topic of the day. Snake. Yeah, last show we talked a little bit about the Super Bowl. How did you like the game?
I'm not crazy about defensive contests, to be honest with you, but Seattle has a great defense. Yeah. I think the Patriots too. Turnovers by Drake May. I think I don't think he played a great game, unfortunately. But at the same time, he got a lot of pressure from the defensive line of the Seahawks. So it was a combination of pressure plus inexperience plus simply bad plays, bad throws, very bad throws. Yeah. So hope we have a better game next year. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, sorry to all the Pats fans, but I think you got more than enough rings that you'll be fine. Congratulations to the Seattle Seahawks. But back to hockey now. And our topic of the day was suggested in a few shows ago, and let's bring up the comment if we can. This is coming from Bonjour. Guys, how about comparing the Montreal Canadiens bottom 6 forwards to the top 4-6 teams in the East and their bottom 6? So, you know what? We're going to roll with this. We're going to look at which teams could the Habs face in the playoffs and how their bottom 6 compares to their bottom 6. So first and foremost, Snake, we have to look at the Habs bottom 6. When fully healthy, what do you think it could look like?
Well, obviously, Anderson, Danault, Gallagher.
Mm-hmm.
There's also either Veleno or Texier or obviously Jake Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm missing one here that you... Newhook. Yeah, Newhook. Exactly. He's going to be back on the third line.
Mm-hmm.
Without saying that it's a bottom 6 that is like the Florida Panthers bottom 6, of the last couple of seasons.
Yeah,
I think it's pretty decent, and the reason is you have some good defensive players like Jake Evans, for instance, Philippe Danault. So it's kind of strong at center for a bottom 6, and Josh Anderson brings size. Maybe not great skills, but size, and he can, pot a few goals here and there.
Yeah.
Brendan Gallagher, I think he's at the tail end of his career. We all know that, so it might not be ideal. But if they can manage his minutes, he can contribute and not necessarily play every game before the end of the year. I don't know if they're going to do it. And who else? Alex Newhook. Alex Newhook brings speed. He can score 15 to 20 goals a year. I think in the playoffs he can be useful. Again, maybe not a great finisher, maybe not great vision, but speed is very, very important.
Yeah.
And I think he brings an element that I like a lot. He used to be, to be honest, I was a little bit disappointed about Newhook's career because I thought it was going to be much better. I had him very, very highly ranked in my draft rankings a few years ago. But he's still a decent NHLer.
Yeah.
Veleno, not very productive. I would say he's kind of a neutral player in the sense that he's not going to create like turnovers and he's not a high event player. Let's call it. Not a high event player. And Texier, I'm not sure he's made for the playoffs, but again, maybe used sparingly. That could help. So I like it. It's not like a top notch bottom six, but I think it's decent because at least you have NHL players. And very often with a bottom six, you're going to have AHL players. Remember, Michael Pezzetta was playing in the bottom six. Michael Pezzetta, unfortunately, was not an NHL player. In this case, the guys we mentioned, the 7 guys we mentioned, they can all play in the NHL, and some of them can move up and down the lineup, which is also important because there's always injuries. There's always guys that are not very good during the game, so you need to replace them on the first or second line. So you have guys that can go up and down the lineup, which is what I like about the Habs bottom six, because remember, most of these guys at some point were top 6 players.
That's it. You take Texier, Bolduc, they both played on the first line at some point. Newhook started the year off on the second line. So I think that's a great point you make there, Snake. But if we can kind of encapsulate or condense what it means for a bottom 6, what is a coach looking for? What is a GM looking for? What is an ideal? What makes up an ideal bottom 6 come playoff time, in your opinion?
Yeah, often you hear that the fourth line, they have to be minute munchers, which means that they're going to play 7, 8, 9 minutes a game, and all you're asking from them is to not get scored against. But also the bottom 6, the fourth line, will play against the other team's fourth line very often. And so you're expecting that your fourth line can outscore the other fourth line because that can be useful.
Yeah.
So you don't want these bottom 6 players who basically have 0 goals. You want them to be able to score a little bit. So the guys we mentioned, aside from Veleno, they can score. They've proven in the past that they can score a little bit. So you have a guy like Josh Anderson. He can be in for a few goals. Zachary Bolduc, I think, can be in for a few goals.
Yep.
Philippe Danault was a decent offensive player for a while. Okay, he's maybe lost that status. But you see guys, when they're on the ice, you don't just go for a beer and basically come back and always expect that no goals will be scored. You want your bottom 6 to score goals. Alex Newhook, I think, can be a contributor also in terms of scoring goals. So ideally, a fourth line, at the end of, let's say that all 6 players play all year on the bottom 6, there's no injuries. Okay, let's make it, let's make an ideal model just to show what a great bottom 6 is. I think if your fourth line can score 25 goals, that's pretty good. If your third line can score 50 goals, that's pretty good. So you're expecting perhaps 75 goals from your bottom 6, which is almost 1 goal per game. I think if you go with this expectation, but of course there's injuries, then players from the AHL are being called up. They're not necessarily that good. So it's very hard to reach that 75 goal mark. But I'm just saying that ideally on an 82 game schedule, if everyone plays 82 games, you're expecting about a goal per game from your bottom 6.
I think that's
and
fair.
In the playoffs, have you noticed that? I think the Stanley Cup champions of the last 10, 15, 20 years, they had that kind of production from the bottom 6, if not more.
And that's why we're
go ahead.
That's why we're having this discussion, Snake, because otherwise, I mean, if the Florida Panthers and the Colorado Avalanche and the Tampa Bay Lightning, if they all relied solely on their first 2 lines, we wouldn't even be talking about this. Right? We'd be saying, well, the third and fourth line are checking lines and, bring physicality, bring certain sort of elements. But no, they actually have to be involved in the game and on the score sheet. So I think that's why there's such an emphasis on the bottom six and how it can elevate a team from a playoff team to an actual contender.
I would say that my ideal bottom six, if I had to go with player profiles, the way I would build it, obviously on the third, you want size, you want physicality, that's for sure. Okay, that's a gimme. Mm-hmm. But I might only have 4 players that are like necessarily big and physical, and that's going to wear, they're going to wear the other team out.
Yeah.
2 of them, in my book, would be skill players. Skill players that are not necessarily good enough or strong enough to go through the daily grind of playing 20, 22 minutes a game on a top 6. Okay, some of them are like that. But I wouldn't mind having a couple of skill guys who are not as strong, but who can add a dimension to your bottom 6. Because if you play 3 guys who can't score, who can't make plays, well, like I said, they're just minute munchers. You want more than that. And that's why when I talked about LG Mooney, whether it be in Montreal or elsewhere, when I talk about LG Mooney, I think it would be the ideal, if everything goes well, it could be the ideal third line player that you pair you pair him up with size and physicality, and he could make plays and have enough space on the ice, although he's very small. So that's one example. And as we go through some of the other teams' bottom 6, you're going to find guys like that in a way.
Exactly.
So that's how I would build my bottom 6, but that's in an ideal world.
And look, not every team is going to have the Florida Panthers third line from last year. We remember Anton Lundell, Brad Marchand, and Eetu Luostarinen. Like, that is a crazy third line. No wonder why they won the cup. But again, there are some really good bottom 6s in the East, especially at the top end of the East. And that's what we're going to look at now. Yep. We're going to start at the very top. Okay. The top team in the East, Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, it's some combination of these players because of injuries and all that, but it looks something like Gergensons, Paul, Holmberg, Douglas, Gord, Sabrin, and you can mix them up however you want. Yeah. There's a good mix of skill and size here, Snake, just like you mentioned. And they also picked up Jack Finley. Correct. Yeah. Correct. Who could probably be a fourth liner. So that's a good indication. The players you named are probably going to be the ones that are going to be on the bottom 6. Now you see with these guys, you have Yanni Gourde, who's a skill player. You have Nick Paul, who's a combination of size, some skill, physicality. I mean, he's a workhorse. That's very, very important. I think Nick Paul epitomizes the bottom 6 player. I think to me, he's the model bottom 6 player. I absolutely love Nick Paul. He doesn't cost too much. He has a good, decent contract, but not too high. He can chip in a few goals, and he can wear out the opponent. To me, he's my poster boy for bottom 6 players. Then they have a guy like Sabourin, I think, who probably will be used sparingly because not a great hockey player, but he can fight. So I think, and Gergensen is the typical minute muncher, ideally on a fourth line. I know that he often plays on the third line, but ideally on fourth line, can score like 6, 7, 8 goals per year. But he's big. He's big. He's been in the league for, I don't know, like over 10 years. And which is rare for bottom 6 players because bottom 6 players usually have a short lifespan. But I think Tampa's bottom 6 is probably superior to the Habs bottom 6 if they face each other in the playoffs because they could wear out the Habs. But Tampa probably has a top 3 bottom 6 in the league. It's good. It's really good. And then you factor in, Julien Brisebois is not afraid to make a move, right? So don't be surprised to see Tampa add to that and actually improve on their bottom 6 come March 6th. I would not be shocked if that were the case. Now, the second best team in the East, the Carolina Hurricanes. Yeah. Oh boy, Nikolai Ehlers, Jordan Staal, Jordan Martineau, not Alex. William Carrier.
Yeah.
Alex is on defense. Sorry. Jankowski and Kotkaniemi on the wing.
Yeah.
It's an interesting bottom six.
It's
very interesting.
Well, Jordan Staal has always been a third-line center, going back to his days in Pittsburgh.
Really good one at that.
A really good one at that. I don't think he was a top six player, although he could play on the top six, but he was not ideal as a top six player, but as a third-line center behind Crosby and Malkin, he was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. Nick Ehlers has always been a third-liner, and I know that he was seen when he became a free agent, he was considered one of the top free agents in the class because he's a skilled player. He's a highly skilled player. But overall, if you look in Winnipeg, the guy never played more than 13, 14 minutes a game because they would shelter him. You have to shelter a guy like Ehlers. You can't play him on the top six for 82 games because he's going to be exposed at some point. He's a smallish guy, not very good defensively, but he's highly skilled. And I think this is one example of a guy that I want on my third line. If I have him on my top six, but if I have him on my third line, that's really, really interesting. The other guys like Martineau, William Carrier, Mark Jankowski, they bring size, physicality, and especially a guy like Carrier. My God, does he work hard?
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he got this nice contract. Because full disclosure, I mean, when I was a scout in Cape Breton, he was on our team. I've met him a few times. I really liked his personality, but what I mean is that his personality really translated to a hardworking hockey player. He was very good with Vegas. And I think every time you have a guy like that, you have a good fourth line. He's one of the top fourth liners in the NHL. Now, Jankowski, by the way, was a first-round pick.
Yeah. Calgary, right?
Calgary. He was playing in a very. He was in. I think he was playing in. Wasn't it Stansted College or something like that? Anyway, he was playing high school hockey. And so he was a surprising first-round pick because he dominated high school hockey, but we all know that high school hockey in Canada is not like junior hockey. So he's had a career. I mean, it's been up and down, but he's had a career.
Yeah.
So good for him. But it goes to show you that bottom six players, they come from... They're not just undrafted free agents or 7-round picks. Sometimes you have first-round picks. And, Carrier was a second-round pick. Jankowski was a first-round pick. And what about the third guy on the line? Number 3 overall picks. Almost 8 years ago. Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Is Kotkaniemi an ideal bottom six player? Well, I think in a way he kind of works hard. I don't dislike him as a fourth liner. The problem is he makes 4.8 million a year.
Ouch.
This is the salary of a good third liner.
And
it used to be the salary of a decent second line player. So I don't know if they're going to do a buyout this summer because Kotkaniemi is going to turn 26 this summer. The buyout period is that when players are like either under 26 or 26 and under, something like that, they can be bought out for 1/3 of what's left of their contract. So I think that it's a possibility that he would be bought out because there's still a lot of years left on his contract. Do they really want to keep him? I know the cap is going up. But he's very expensive. Now, I don't dislike him as a fourth liner, but is he your typical fourth liner? I would say no. I think he's just there because he has proven that he cannot be a top 9 player. So it's more like they're stuck with him and they have to play him somewhere. They play him on the fourth line, but he's not a liability. So overall, a very, very good bottom six. And, Carolina's number one in their division. Tampa is leading the division. So you see that it's not just about star players. And both teams have star players, especially not Dallas, but Tampa.
Tampa, yeah.
And I know that you have to consider defense and goaltending and et cetera, et cetera. I know that. But they both have in common the fact that they have a great bottom six.
Exactly. No, that's it. So far, I mean, I don't know.
Don't forget there's injuries. There's injuries. And sometimes
exactly.
third liner have to become second liners and fourth liners have to become third liners.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But of the two teams that we mentioned, Snake, I don't know that the Habs have a better bottom six than Tampa or Carolina. I wouldn't go.
I don't
as far
think
as
so.
saying that.
No, I don't. The Habs bottom six is good, but it's not up to par with Carolina and Tampa.
That's it. Now, if the playoffs were to start tomorrow, Montreal Canadiens would be facing another original six team in the Detroit Red Wings, and they have a very interesting bottom six as well. Now they have Emmett Finney, JT Compher, Mason Appleton. And then the big boys, Elmer Soderblom, Rasmussen, and Van Riemsdyk. That is a huge fourth line, Snake.
Yeah, Soderblom especially. Yeah, even Van Riemsdyk. Yeah, they're all big. Now you see another top 10 pick, Rasmussen, who was drafted number 9. Honestly, I never understood why they drafted him number 1, because to me, he was destined to the fourth line. In my evaluation, I had him as a late first round pick at the time. Van Riemsdyk number 2 overall pick, but I think it's only because of age now that JVR cannot be a top 6 player anymore, but he used to be a very good top 6 player. So by playing less minutes, I think he can be very useful. Soderblom at some point was considered a possible top 6 player because he's big, he can score. Yeah. But I don't think he can handle 20, 22 minutes a night on a top 6. But on the fourth line, that's pretty darn good. And I like their third line. Emmett Finney, probably the big surprise of the draft a few years ago. He was a 7th round pick. And at the age of 20, started out on the top line in October, if you recall.
Oh, yeah.
But, he's come back to earth. So now he's a fourth liner. JT Compher, very, very good third liner with Colorado when they won the Cup. Still pretty good. A la Nick Paul, I would say. And Mason Appleton coming from Winnipeg, very decent guy. So I would say not as good as Tampa and Carolina, but I would say pretty decent. Now, what is going to be the match against? How will the Habs fare? I think they can do well. Third line against third line. Fourth line against fourth line, it depends on the physicality.
Yeah.
So it would be hard, for a guy like, Brendan Gallagher to go against these guys. But again, are they going to score that much? They're not great scorers anymore. So are they going to score that much? So as long as the Habs don't get outplayed by the fourth line, I think they can do it. And just as a parenthesis, I think the Habs top 6 is better. So to me, Detroit is a very beatable opponent for the Habs. So if the Habs were facing Detroit in the playoffs, which is a strong possibility, a very strong possibility, I think the Habs have the edge, and I think the Habs would win the first round.
That's it. They have Marco Kasper's having a rough year. Yeah. I don't know about Andrew Kopp on the second line. He's
a third liner. He's a third liner.
I'm with you there. I think the Habs have a good chance against that team, but it's a very nice bottom 6. I think, the players are in the correct chairs. But again, I think it's this one's a little more comparable to the Habs. The other two, I think, are a notch above. This one fares pretty well. Next team I want to talk about, not a very likely playoff opponent, but still, they're, 5th in the East?
Yeah.
It's the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have been the biggest surprise, in my opinion, this season in the NHL. They have been a beautiful story. Positive surprise, I could say.
Even more than Buffalo.
I would agree with you there. Yes,
because Buffalo,
everybody was talking about the demise of the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah. Whereas Buffalo, it was more like, okay, what's happening with this young talent? So Buffalo is a bit of a surprise, but the Penguins are more of a surprise.
Yeah, and their bottom 6 is really interesting, and their fourth line has gotten a lot of attention, rightfully so, because they've played beautifully together. But on the third line, some sort of combination of Anthony Mantha, Ben Kindle, Justin Brazeau, and then the fourth line of Connor Dewar, Kevin Hayes, and Blake Lizotte. That's a really solid bottom six. I mean, I have to admit, that's really good.
Well, Kindle was a little bit of a surprise in the sense that he made the team at age 18. Very few guys drafted outside of the top 5 make the team at the age of 18. So I think Kindle is at some point will be a top 6 player. Now he's a third line player because he's very young. So I think at some point he will replace. He'd be a top 6 center when Crosby and Malkin are gone. It's kind of interesting. Brazeau, Blake Lizotte was pretty good with the Kings. Dewar is a little bit of a surprise. Kevin Hayes, a blast from the past. Anthony Mantha, not the hardest worker. So it's just that with Mantha, you can't really put him on the top 6 because he's not necessarily good enough for the top 6. But is he also a bottom 6 player? He has size, but does he work hard enough? Not sure. So I have my look. I don't dislike that bottom 6, but I don't know if it's sustainable. I'm not sure.
It's going to crash down at one point.
It could crash down, but it's fine. It's fine. I like Kindle. a lot. That's for sure. I like Lizotte. He's a little bit older now, but I like Lizotte. Kevin Hayes. Anyway, it's a motley crew. The whole Penguins roster is very strange.
But it works in a bottle. Yeah, I don't know,
but it works. Because on paper you were looking at this roster in September, and I was like, oh boy, Gavin McKenna, someone,
That's it. Yeah,
I know my friend and colleague Mathias Brunet. He's been on the Penguins case for years now, and he's always wondering, okay, when are they going down? Because they will go down at some point. They will go down
for sure.
But Crosby is still very good. And Malkin is having a decent season, although he missed some games. And but at the beginning of the year, when we're talking about where Gavin McKenna would be playing, Pittsburgh was one of the main destinations that were mentioned.
Yeah. And listen, I want to give them credit as well for picking up Igor Chinakov.
Yeah,
because he has put on a show. Since joining the Penguins. Great pickup there by Kyle Dubas. And they put him on a line with Malkin. Yeah, the Russian connection is working there.
Now, is it going to last? Because Chinakov over the years has been a streaky player.
That's it.
So what we're saying now might not age well in 2 months. But for now, he's been a good pickup. Look, he didn't cost that much. I think it was not a bad idea because he has skills. The only thing is with these guys very often is that they're streaky, and that I think Alexandre Texier is one good example. He's got to have a very good streak. He's had it in St. Louis before. He has a very good streak, then disappears, then he comes back, then he disappears. Look, you can't really rely on these players, but when they play well, they do play well.
They make a difference.
It's just that they're not as reliable as your main guys who night after night, what to expect. They're not going to have 82 fantastic games, but you kind of know what to expect. If you look at the Habs players, you know what to expect, from, let's say, a Hudson or Suzuki. They're not going to have 82 great games, but that they're not going to be streaky. They're going to be good all year. Whereas guys like Texier, Chinakov, it's like, okay, they're on fire, then they crash down, then they're on fire again. And that's why they've had up and down careers, these two guys. And that's why they get traded at some point. And when they play well, when they're with the new team, everyone gets excited and wonders, why did they let him go? And then after a couple of months, okay, that's why they let him go.
Well, he's right in the hot hand right now. And listen, hopefully for Penguins fans, it keeps going. Hopefully for him as well. But Yeah, it's a great point you bring up there. Between the Penguins and the Habs, bottom six, which one do you prefer?
The Habs. The Habs. Yeah, the Habs. Although I love Kindell. I think Kindell is the best of the bunch of all players on those two teams. But I'm not too excited about the rest of the guys. But there's physicality. That's for sure.
It.
And whenever there's physicality, it's the playoffs. I always say the Habs need more sandpaper. So when there's physicality, it's so hard to look at this on paper and look at the regular season. And then some of these guys, they morph into monsters in the playoffs. We've seen this before. We'll see it again this year. There will be some bottom six players that will be like, wow, who are these guys? And then next year, they go back to being okay. So I think it's kind of the bottom six. A team's bottom six is kind of a lottery. Almost like goalies, except Carey Price, let's say, or Vasilevsky. But it's almost like a lottery because you're always wondering, okay, what are you going to get from them? What are you going to get? Yeah, and very often I've noticed that bottom six players are being praised after a team wins the cup. But in the analysis, the pre-playoff analysis, they're not often mentioned as okay. Who's gonna who when people make playoff predictions, on April 15, who's gonna say I think the best bottom six is that team or that team? No, nothing. And then in June, have you seen the Stanley Cup winners bottom six? Do you see what I mean?
That's it.
So it's a little bit random. So the exercise we're doing this morning is not easy. We're doing it for fun, just to compare. But there's no gimme with these guys.
And Snake, funny enough, we're sticking with the Penguins here for a second. I vividly remember in one of the Penguins playoff runs, I forget which year, but it doesn't matter. There was a line of Nick Bonino, Phil Kessel, and Carl Hagelin.
Yes.
That was it, second or third line. I believe it was the third line.
Yeah. Like it was 2016 or 2017. Yeah.
I believe so. That line was out of this world. Like they were so good together. It made no sense.
And
again,
Phil
we
Kessel,
talked about it afterwards.
Yeah, because Phil Kessel, in a lot of people's books, was finished, at least as a top six player. And a lot of people thought, okay, Phil Kessel on the third line or fourth line. What good is it going to do? He's pudgy. He's not hardworking. He's out of shape.
Yeah,
but he was on fire.
Oh wow, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
But again, like you said, it was talked about after they won the cup. Because let's be honest, in 2016, not many people saw the Penguins win the cup. A lot of analysts, including myself, thought that they were done, and that ship had sailed, and that basically the Penguins should consider trading, Malkin and Letang and Fleury, because Fleury wasn't even he was the backup goalie to Matt Murray. Yeah, but they won 2 cups.
Yeah, there you go. Funny how it goes. Now, the next bottom six we're going to look at here is a little hard to predict. This one I can't read quite as well.
Yeah,
it's the Buffalo Sabres. Okay, they've been quite the story this year. Snake, you mentioned it, but the bottom six is a bit weird for me. They got a young line of Rosen, Ostlund, Hellenius right now. Who knows what it'll look like with injuries?
Yeah,
and then the fourth line, I'm not a big fan of. Peyton Krebs, Kozak, and Beck Mallenstein.
Yeah.
Don't love that.
Okay, that's a very small bottom six.
Right.
Rosen, Ostlund, Hellenius, Krebs. 4 small guys, but skilled.
Yeah.
So on paper, Ostlund, Hellenius, Krebs.
Good talent.
That's talent.
Yeah.
Okay. All of them first round picks. But I think it's way too small. It's good for the regular season, but it's way too small. So they're gonna have to have injured guys back, or have a guy like maybe Ryan McLeod on the third line, although I doubt it. Maybe make a trade, because now they're going to be buyers, I would think. Look, Konsta Elenius, he's 19 years old. It's I don't know if he's going to go back to Rochester at some point. He's been good so far, but he's 19 years old. They might want to send him back. Oslund, I think, is in Buffalo for good. He, these skill guys, I always say it, these skill forwards, they don't stay in the American Hockey League for very long when they're good. So I think Elenius is it. Rosen, I'm not a fan of. He was, although he came to North America at a very young age, I appreciated the fact that he came to the American Hockey League as a teenager. Same with Helenius, by the way. I think it's very good for their development. We touched base on that. I think we had a topic. We discussed this development thing in the AHL, but I think it's way too small. Yep. Rosen, I'm not sure is an AHL is a regular NHL player, a bona fide NHL player. I'm not so sure. Krebs, I like a lot. I would have him on the third line. He's the typical small skill guy who I think can do damage on a third line. He's had better stats this year, by the way, than in previous years. So maybe I saw him much better than that. At first, I thought he was going to be a top 6 player when he was drafted, but that was my mistake. He's a bottom 6 player, but I think he can be a good one. Kozak, it's getting old. It's getting and Malenstein, not really a fan. Not sure if he's really an NHL player. So the Sabres bottom 6, not in terms of talent, but in terms of fit. If they keep it like that, it's going to be hard in the playoffs. If they keep it like that. So that's a bottom 6 that I think, like I say, not necessarily talent-wise, but in terms of what a bottom 6 should be, I think I prefer the Habs bottom 6.
That's it.
Although Buffalo's on paper has more talent.
For sure. Yeah. But again, it's young for my liking. There's not enough experience. I feel like that's another big factor for bottom 6 is it's like, you want guys who've been around, right? Who know what they're doing, right? Reliable. And look, I didn't mention Josh Norris for the Buffalo Sabres because he's just unreliable.
But let's say he's in the playoffs. He would bring Ryan McLeod back to the third line.
That would make a big difference. That would make a big difference. But again, Josh Norris can only play 3 games in a row. It's awful. I feel terrible for the guy. He's got a great talent.
He's good. He is
an incredible hockey player. But man, he just cannot stay healthy. I don't know if it's bad luck or if his body is failing him. Whatever it may be, it's really unfortunate. But he would make a big difference in terms of fit and chairs for the Buffalo Sabres. But yeah, right now I don't think we can count him in. He's at that point now. No. Last team we're going to talk about, Snake, the Boston Bruins, the big bad Bruins. Do they have the bottom 6 to fit that nickname? I think so. Yeah. Tanner Janot, Matthew Poitras, and then he's probably going to go back to the AHL once injuries come back. But right now he's there. Mark Kastelik, okay, Alex Steves, what a story he's been. Sean Corrali, great on faceoffs, and Mikey Eyssimont, little bulldog. That guy's he's nuts, but that Snake is high energy, high physicality, bottom 6.
Let me tell you something, okay? On paper, it's one of the worst.
That's it.
Okay, it's one of the
very little talent. However,
if you put that bottom 6, I don't know, in San Jose or Anaheim or Columbus, wherever, we don't care.
Yeah.
But the fact that they play with the Boston Bruins, I think it elevates.
Yeah.
They all elevate their play in terms of. You'd think that the Boston Bruins, for older viewers, the Boston Bruins were playing on a smaller rink at the time. It was smaller than the normal 200 feet by 85 rink, and it was so claustrophobic for other teams to play in Boston because there was no space. And it's like these guys. It's like Boston, even though they got a brand new skating rink, maybe 25 years ago, they still play that style. They play as if the ice was smaller. They wear you down. And like I say, I look at these guys and I'm like, ugh. But then you watch them on the ice
Yeah.
And you're like, man, these guys are crazy. And the Bruins, talk about a team that is playing above their value on paper. If you see what I mean.
Boy, yeah,
they're going to make the
about it.
playoffs. They're going to, unless they totally collapse, they're going to make the playoffs.
Crazy.
And they give the Habs a very hard time when they play the Habs. And the Habs are way more talented than Boston. Okay, they have David Pastrnak. Okay, that's one of a kind. But they have decent players, Charlie McAvoy. But
Morgan
overall,
yeah.
Pardon me. Yeah. Look at Geeky.
What a story.
Was doing nothing in Seattle and Carolina. Was doing nothing.
Crazy.
That was a goal scorer. Okay, last year one can say, okay, they had a high shooting percentage. It's kind of a fluke. Blah blah blah. No, it's not a fluke. It's been 2 years in a row.
Doing it again. Yeah.
Yeah, he's doing it again. What a late bloomer! And Boston has had so many of these guys over the years because every time you watch, you look at their draft list after the fact, Boston will never be mentioned as, they got an A+ draft. When we do these quick takes, on drafts, which are ridiculous, but we all do it for fun. But they have they get these players out of nowhere, and they become I wouldn't say necessarily better, but more hardworking, I would say. And hard work can take you a long way in the NHL, but it can only take you so far. I mean, I'm not saying Boston's going to win the cup this year, but they need more skills. But yeah, this would be a very tough opponent for the Habs. And it's not
for anyone.
Impossible. I think it's going to be Montreal-Detroit, to be honest.
Yeah.
But there's still a possibility that it could be Montreal-Boston.
Oh, it'd be so much fun.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun. Now, Snake, we've looked at six top teams in the Eastern Conference and their bottom six. Where would you rank the Habs' bottom six among those teams?
I would say fourth. Okay. I would have Carolina and Tampa and Boston ahead of them. And then I see them above Buffalo, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And I slight edge over Detroit, I would say. So maybe, middle of the pack, I would say. It's a middle of the pack. It's an okay bottom six. It's a good bottom six. They're not going to be in trouble with that bottom six, but is it going to be optimal? Maybe not. But it's a good bottom six.
Yeah. And I said six teams because I'm excluding the Penguins here because the likelihood of the Habs facing the Penguins in the playoffs is very minimal. So these are the teams they're most likely going to face. I think there's safe to say there's still room for improvement for the Habs bottom six. It doesn't really have its identity quite yet, but trade deadlines are around the corner. There's still time for the roster to settle in. Injuries, right? It's been shambled throughout the season because of injuries. Newhook's going to be coming back. All of that to say, if they play Detroit, it shouldn't be a factor, right? The Habs probably won't lose because their bottom six failed them.
No. It would be because Detroit's, let's say, defense overperformed the Habs' defense. Something like that. Yeah. Because they still have Moritz Seider. So that's a big piece. That's a big piece.
What a player.
But
I don't love their depth on defense, though.
No, me neither.
I don't love their depth.
Me neither.
Seider is incredible.
I much prefer the Habs depth. So, look, I think let's assume that Tampa and Carolina win the divisions. Okay, let's assume. If the Habs finish out of the top three, they're going to face either Tampa or Carolina in the first round. If the Habs finish in the top three, it's either going to be Detroit, Boston, or Buffalo.
Yeah.
So that's why we have there are 5 likely opponents in the first round. We don't know yet. And then if the Habs win, then they're facing probably Tampa, assuming that Tampa wins the first round. So they're facing Tampa. So the road to the Final Four will probably go through Tampa. So if they face Detroit, let's say they win, then they face Tampa, and then could they face Carolina? I'm trying to see Detroit, Tampa, Carolina.
Hurricanes are they're the kings to the Eastern Conference Finals and blowing it. They do it every year. So
to be honest,
I
think the Habs
have Hurricanes there.
To be honest, I think the Habs have a better chance against Carolina than Tampa.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to choose, that's what I would do. That's what I would wish for. I would wish for Carolina for the Habs, but most likely opponent Detroit. Beatable. Because remember, what was the Habs' goal at for fans, and management? What was the goal at the beginning of the year? I think it was to win one round.
I think so. I forget if they mentioned it. I think the goals
deep down inside,
were different with everyone, right? But
even with fans, I talk to friends and fans, and they all say, "Well, I wish they win one round."
That's fair.
Yeah, because they made the playoffs last year, then they win a round this year, and then they can climb up. Because a lot of people are talking about the Habs, being in the finals maybe in 28. So that wouldn't make sense. Something like that. I always thought they were going to reach the finals by the year 2028.
That's when, the cap space opens up here. So
exactly.
I would agree with that take. And listen, we'll throw it over to the listeners now. Mm-hmm. Let us know, where do you think the Habs bottom six ranks among the top teams in the East? Do they need to make adjustments? Who would you add to it? Let us know in the comments section. Snake, before we move along, I think it's a perfect opportunity for me to tell everybody about our partners at the Sick Podcast who make this show possible. And I want to start off with a big shout out to our friends at Cheapest T-Shirts. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They are proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every single day. You'll always get the cheapest prices plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery, so your order arrives fast. Plus, you can enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. Get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And our friends, a big thank you to our friends at Betway. Hopefully some of you put a few bucks on the Seahawks like I told you to do so. But if you didn't, listen, you can still bet on the Olympics, okay? So don't select the bus with Betway and get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. We have two great questions waiting for us, mailbag. So let's go digging in there. All right. First question is coming from Pierre Lechoux. Saying interesting. Cutter Gauthier. I know you're a big fan of his, Snakes. So
yeah.
I think Pierre knows that as well. How would you deal with a player like that who did not want to play for your team when you draft him? Flyers traded him. Was it the right decision? Bélanger said they should not have traded him. I think he's referring to Eric Bélanger. What would you have done, Snake? I mean, the guy says he doesn't want to play for the Flyers. I think you have to move him, right?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because there are many factors involved. Of course, the leverage a team has when they draft a player is that if the guy goes to college, to college. Mm-hmm. I mean, at the time, you had his rights for 4 years, which means that you have 4 years to sign him, and if he wants to play in the NHL before, he has to play for you. Mm. The downside is after 4 years, if the guy decides to go through the 4 years in college, he becomes a free agent at age 22 and he's gone for nothing. And probably that the more you make him stall, the lesser the possibility that he's going to sign with you, unless the conflict was with management and management is gone at that time. I'm going to give the example of Kaprizov. Kaprizov, they had his rights indefinitely because that's how it works with Russian players. So it was a little bit of a different situation, but still. Kaprizov took 5 years to come to the NHL. And he blamed it on the fact that management at the time, before Bill Guerin was hired, the previous management team did not care about him. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what was said. I don't know if it's true, but the point is, it was mentioned as the main reason why Kaprizov didn't come to the NHL right away. As soon as Guerin got there, they got him signed. Mm-hmm. And I think there was someone in between because Fletcher was there, then he was replaced, then Guerin came in. But it was about Fletcher. I remember that the issue was about Fletcher. Now, so I understand saying they should not have traded him and make him sweat. Yeah, that's something you can do. That's the leverage you have as a team. And then you lose him for nothing. But it's like, we taught you guys a lesson. You don't want to sign with us. You're going to have to spend 4 years in college before you get to the NHL. But then how does it affect your relationship with agents? Mm-hmm. You know, agents represent a lot of players. And these players some of them are bound to be drafted by your team at some point. And we had a case in junior hockey, 2012 or 2013. We have the number 1 overall pick. And that number 1 overall pick at the time, the consensus unanimous choice was Nicolas Roy, who plays for the Leafs today. Had a very nice NHL career. And he said he didn't want to play for us. I think it was about school or whatever. I don't know. But he said he didn't want to play for us. We drafted him anyway. Try and convince him to come. To no avail. We traded him.
Yeah.
And we got a pretty good haul. So at some point, what do? You just make him sweat, let him go back to midget AAA, and then he goes, you keep his rights forever. Then what? He loses value. Agents are like, okay, we don't want to play for this guy because that's how he operates. So yeah, you do have leverage, but you don't have that much leverage as a team. Could they have made a better trade than Jamie Drysdale? It depends. Because if Gauthier was not going to sign with that new team, well, that new team wouldn't give much for him. So how many teams did he have on his list? It's like Artemi Panarin. Oh, they only got Liam Greentree and a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick. Yeah, he only wanted to go to the Kings.
That's it.
So players have a lot of leverage, and I think the only thing you can do, and again, Eric Lindros.
That's it. That's the first one. It's a big one.
You know what? He would have been back in the draft 2 years later. Mm-hmm. So they made him sweat for a year. Well, not necessarily made him sweat, but they tried to convince him to come. And then they realized that, okay, if we don't trade him, he's going to go back in the draft next year. We lose him for nothing. So at some point, you do lose the player for nothing. Yeah. And you might antagonize a lot of agents and other players along the way. It's too bad, but that's what it is. It's too bad. Yeah. As me, I had the philosophy, Mr. Bélanger said, "Oh, don't trade him." I was thinking when I was younger, I was thinking that way. Okay, can make him sweat. Let him play 4 years in the NCAA, and he learn his lesson.
Risky.
Look, it's risky. So that's too bad. Now, how do I handle a player like this? Honestly, I tried to convince him. I tried to know why he doesn't come. And if there's something I can do, I trade him and I tried to make the best trade possible. The only thing is, I want to make sure that he wants to go to more than one team. Adam Fox only wanted to go to the ring. Yeah.
Handcuffed.
Players have leverage. That's all.
That's it. And for Gauthier's case, I mean, we don't know the full story.
Exactly.
We believe it goes something along the lines of the Flyers weren't ready to bring him up just yet, but he wanted to come up. So he's like, well, I don't want to play for you anymore, and then forced a trade. We don't know how many teams he wanted to go to. So all of that, we're missing a lot of key information here to make a snap judgment, but it's a weird situation, and it really handcuffs the team. Yeah. I don't think Gauthier told the Flyers before the draft, hey, I don't want to play for you.
No, I don't think
highly doubt that.
I think the idea that he wanted to sign after his first season and they didn't want to, if that's the reason, if that's the only reason, then the Flyers are to blame.
Yeah.
Because what's the big deal?
That's it. You
teams do it all the time.
Player, essentially.
Teams do it all the time. Look at the college players. A lot of them are going to sign again around end of March, early April. Michael Hage is going to sign.
Yeah.
Because he wants to come. Okay, do the Habs necessarily think that he's ready? Do they think it could be better to go on for a 30 year? We don't know, but that's not the point. The guy wants to come, sign him.
Mm-hmm.
Then once he's signed, you deal with him.
Better than losing him, for
Jimmy Vesey, I remember at the time, he wanted to sign, and he wasn't ready for the NHL. Well, you know what? Jimmy Vesey's career has been very so-so considering how much hype there was around or how highly he thought of himself as a player. So look, at some point, life catches up to you, or hockey catches up to you. What you do on the ice catches up to you. So Gauthier wants to sign after 1 year. Personally, he's a personal favorite of mine. So obviously I would have signed him. But notwithstanding the fact that I liked him, okay, he's a top 5 pick. Come on, guys. You chose him number 5. He's had a good season in college. Sign him.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's a fumble. But look, we don't know the full story. From the outside, it looks pretty bad on the Flyers. But hey, we're going to leave that one at that. Thank you for the question, Pierre. Let's go to question number 2 now. This one coming from Emil Shelbourne. Question: Have you fellas ever looked at a team's roster's undrafted players? If you go team by team, you will get an interesting collection of players. How do teams of scouts miss these guys? Is there a mindset that is a common denominator of these good players that have turned out to contribute long-term in the NHL? If you take the Montreal Canadiens, for example, Arbor Xhekaj.
Yeah, that's the example. Yeah,
drafted guy. Yeah.
I put together a list of players. Obviously, there's a lot of them, but I'm just going to name a few of them. I think you could have, if you put them all together, I think you would have a good NHL team. I don't know if it would be good enough to do like Vegas did and get to the finals in 2018. Yeah. But you would have a very decent lineup. So so I'm gonna give you names. Jonathan Marchessault, Mason Marchment, Ilya Mikheyev, Mathieu Olivier, Artemi Panarin, Darren Radish, Kiefer Sherwood, Evan Rodriguez, Artem Zub, Matt Zuccarello, Zach Whitecloud, Frank Vetrano, Colin Graff, David Kempf, Tyler Johnson, Yanni Gourde, Alex Iafallo, Fred Gaudreau, Brendan Dillon, Simon Benoit, Arbor Xhekaj. So I think overall, and the goalies, Bobrovsky, Lenkinen, Lindgren, Talbot, Logan Thompson, I think you'd have a good team. Now, I think our listener wants to know if there is a common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
How do they miss this, guys? Yeah.
How did they miss these guys? Because there are 7 rounds. How can you not draft these players? You're drafting 210 players. 3/4 of them will never make the NHL, but you pass on guys who actually make it. I think there are various reasons. Let's take the Russian players first. The Russian players, some of them are a little bit too hard to evaluate because sometimes they play they don't play a lot when they're in their draft year.
Yeah.
For some reason. There's a big hierarchy in Russia about, you're 17, you don't play very much. You're 18, you don't play very much. And, it's very rare that guys will play as much as Zarovsky this year in the KHL. Even, Mishkov, Demidov, they had games where they played 4 minutes. So Russian players maybe a little bit harder. And you don't want to, and another topic we've discussed before, I think teams don't want to take a chance on a Russian player who is not necessarily seen as a first-round pick, a future star, because if they're just average players, they might want to stay in their country because there was a point where they were making more money and they stayed home.
Comfort, yeah.
So I think this is one reason. The one reason, of course, the second reason, late bloomers. There are some late bloomers. Yes, scouts can miss on certain players, but they're not blind either. So there are late bloomers. Another reason, size. Smaller players get overlooked because with smaller players, it's always the same thing with smaller players. Tyler Johnson, if you don't feel that they're going to be Patrick Kane, you don't draft them.
Yeah.
Teams are very, very. Look at obviously there's a change now. More guys like that are drafted. LG Mooney was drafted, but you know what? He was drafted in the 4th round. LG Mooney, 5'11" or 6 foot tall, is probably a late first round pick.
Easily.
Yeah, maybe a mid first round pick. So that's another reason. So late bloomer, size, Russian factor, whatever you want to call it. And so I think that's the 3 main reasons. Colin Graff, with the Sharks, very average player when he in his draft year, showed nothing. And he signed as a free agent, and now he's a top 6 player. I think he's more like a third liner in the future when the Sharks get better. But right now he's a top 6 player. So I think that's pretty much what it is. There's no magic formula because scouts do watch all players. The only problem is that we get limited viewings of certain guys in their draft year. With limited viewings. But there is a difference between being drafted, let's say, at least in the 7th round and not being drafted at all. And some of these players, the last thing I want to mention is that some of these players were probably on a team's draft list. The only thing is they draft 210 players. So the guy who's drafted 210 is probably 60th on someone's list.
It's crazy.
Because I've never seen any NHL lists. But if I look at the junior lists, the guy we draft in the 12th round is very often 90th on our list. Although he's being drafted 200 and something. He could be 90th on our list. So probably that all these guys were on a team's list, but they didn't get to that player. So it's not because they were not seen. It's not because they were ignored. It's not because, scouts are stupid.
Fell through the cracks.
They fell through the cracks for the reasons I mentioned. Look, if the listeners have other ideas as to why these guys can be overlooked, I gave a few reasons. Maybe I forgot some. So just let us know in the comment section.
Absolutely. And a great question by Emil there. Great questions and topic suggestions as always. This is a lot of fun, Snake. I really enjoyed doing this exercise with you. And before we wrap this up, we're going to finish off what we talked about last week about Gavin McKenna. Okay. The whole Gavin McKenna situation has a conclusion. As predicted, the case was dismissed. Okay. Well, actually, the charges. The charges were dropped.
Look,
still under investigation.
Tempest in the teapot. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened behind the scenes afterwards.
Yeah.
But I think we all had a feeling that this wouldn't go very far, considering the. I know the media made it very dramatic. He could face 20 years in jail.
Come
But
on.
I think we all knew that from the facts that could be gathered and made public, we all knew that it was not going to be something. And you know what? I heard something interesting this week. I heard that some scout might even be impressed with the fact that the guy has character. Because very often, Gavin McKenna is seen on the ice as a little bit lackadaisical and, soft, and he plays on the periphery, doesn't go to the middle of the ice. Well, I heard that some scouts could have been very impressed by his display of aggressiveness.
His ability to defend himself. We'll just say it like that. This is a nothing burger, and we kind of predicted that last show, but it's pretty much confirmed now. Nothing's going to come out of this, so we can move on and actually talk about Gavin McKenna, the hockey player, again. So with that, Snake, that's going to wrap up today's show. But again, I want to remind everyone, we are going to be back again on Thursday, and again on Monday, and again on Thursday. We don't take breaks during the Olympic break. Snake, anything else to add before we get out of here?
See you guys Thursday.
See you guys Thursday. Thank you to Jimmy at Master Control. He's Simon the Snake Bovine. I'm producer Shayne. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. Take care.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.